and welcome to another LVP Conversation. Today we are interviewing Madelene, and she goes to University of the Pacific and is actually a music therapy major. Welcome, Madelene.
Hello, yes, thank you, LVP, for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you. I think Angela's going to start us off with some questions. Cool. So could you tell us a little bit about your backstory with music?
My backstory with music, as similar to a lot of musicians, I've pretty much grown up with music. I've studied voice since at a very young age, actually here in Fresno, when I lived in Fresno, and kind of continued that throughout the rest of my life. In elementary school, I started taking piano lessons, and then middle school, I started joining orchestra, and so I learned the viola. And also middle school, I taught myself how to play guitar. So viola and guitar pretty much are kind of learning on my own slash, with orchestra with viola. So that was really cool. It's really been a part of my life as long as I can remember, which is funny because I didn't actually think I would make it a career. So here I am now.
Yeah, that's awesome. So kind of going off of that, what made you choose music therapy as a major, and how do you define the profession of music therapy?
Sure. My road to choosing music therapy is really interesting because I actually had got accepted and gone to UOP. I had gone to UOP initially for pre-pharmacy. I got into the 3+3 program, and for those of you who don't know, UOP is also known for their accelerated programs in pre-med or medicine, pharmacy, whatever. So that's what I actually went to UOP for. And I actually didn't know about their music therapy program. I came into UOP wanting to still minor in music because I still wanted music, still somewhere in my life, even though it wasn't the initial career choice I had picked. So I minored in music, so I still had to take some, classes at the conservatory. And that was actually where I found out about music therapy, because I had a good amount of classmates who were music therapy majors. And so I was like, oh my gosh, what is that? I actually joined a club in UOP, and I became friends with kind of the upperclassmen, and one of them was actually a music therapy major. And so I talked to her more about it and what's it about, and how the career is. And she basically kind of inspired me to change my major. She didn't really try to persuade me, but it was more of yeah, this is what it's all about. And it basically had combined everything that I loved, which is helping people and music, which I didn't at first, didn't think there was a career for, but turns out there was. And I actually had taken a class at Pacific. It was I don't know how to explain it, but we have this thing called PACS, which is mandatory for all students. So my second semester, you get to pick specific PACS classes. And I chose one that was centered around music. And in that music class, I even learned more about music therapy because the professor had brought it up. And I took that as a sign. I was like, oh my gosh, I am seeing all these things about music therapy. I think it's time for me to switch. And it was the best decision I've ever made. So that's pretty much how I got into the music therapy career major choice. But how I would describe music therapy, first off, I have a picture here, or a note here. I'll first read the official definition from the official music therapy website, the American Music Therapy Association, first, just to give an actual good foundation. So the definition they have is: music therapy is the clinical and evidence-based use of music interventions to accomplish individualized goals within a therapeutic relationship by a credentialed professional who has completed an approved music therapy program. That's the formal definition. How I would describe it, it's basically using music as a tool to kind of, complete either non-musical or musical goals and objectives. It's really it's not the center of what it is you're doing, but it's there to help you achieve that, what it is that you're kind of trying to improve or maintain, whatever your goal and objective may be. There's a common misconception about people don't really know about music therapy, as I'm sure we all are aware of, because it's not a very common thing. And if you were to hear about it, a lot of people think like, oh, like, is it like, do you sing to someone and do they feel better? Which, like, yeah, sure, it's not like entirely wrong, but it's not correct either. One of my professors and actually advisors would always say this whenever we're learning about like, trying to define music therapy or trying to kind of, talk about it with others, especially to those who don't know. He always says that, there's a difference between a well-intentioned, guitar playing volunteer that goes to, like a hospital or a nursing home, and plays for the residents, plays music for them. There's a difference between, that type of person and a music therapist who goes into, these sites and actually, they have to assess, observe, their clients, the people they're working with. And then with that, they need to, find out their strengths, their needs, what it is they specifically, individually need to work on. And then with that, forming objectives and then forming interventions that come along with that. So there's a lot of work that goes behind music therapy that not a lot of people really realize.
I was wondering how it is like being a music therapy major and some of your favorite classes or most interesting classes you've taken, or big things you've learned so far.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things to like about being a music therapy student, especially at UOP. I guess I'll be specific since that's the only experience I have. So UOP is, private school, so it's a lot smaller than the public schools, and especially with the conservatory and even the music therapy program, that's even smaller. There's actually only like 15 people in my like cohort, my class of music therapy students. So you really get to know everyone, and because of like just that small environment, you really connect with your professors and your supervisors, and they just really do care about you, and they like always routinely check in, and they always like want to see you like genuinely do your best. And if they even see that, oh, you're not performing as well as, we know you can, they'll reach out to you. They'll say like, do you need any help? Like, what's up? They just genuinely care about you. And it's just so like, yeah, it's just so good. So great. So yeah, so definitely that. Another thing that I love about being a music therapy student at UOP, which kind of ties in with like one of like my favorite classes that I've taken so far, is that at UOP, the music therapy program there, for our junior and senior year, we are required to take field work. And what field work is basically is when you are assigned a location or a site and a population, and you essentially start giving music therapy sessions, of course, under the supervision of like a supervisor and also your professors. But yeah, so you really do get a hands-on experience, like 3 years into your studies. And as scary as it sounds, it really is like the most amazing opportunity, because you really just go for it and you learn along the way, and you learn a lot along the way. So like my first semester, last fall 2019, my first semester of fieldwork, I was placed in a special school for a class of preschoolers who were diagnosed with ASD, autism spectrum disorder. And so I was super nervous, and that population specifically was quite challenging, just because they're very young kids. A lot of their behaviors, you'll have to kind of work around and do that during session, address it during session. So when me and my partner, because I was assigned a partner, we were super nervous. Like we were like, we don't know what we're doing. Are we really ready to lead a session? But like again, the supervisors and the professors, they're all there for you and helpful. Like even if you feel like you're doing a good job, you're not on the right path, like they will reassure you, and if they'll also lead you to the right path. Like they're just there to help, which is one of my favorite things. So yeah,
that was really cool. So my question is, what is your biggest takeaway from learning about music therapy?
Yeah, so again, like I mentioned earlier, there's actually a lot that goes behind music therapy. And I guess one of the first times I realized this, or I guess it kind of like really clicked with me, was like my first semester of fieldwork, actually being, in the session and like, getting feedback from the supervisor and stuff like that. There was something that, that our supervisor had taught us, which actually like kind of, yeah, again, made everything click for me, and really helped me kind of progress, was that again, because you're using music as a tool, music is not the main thing. There's a difference between performing for your clients and, patients, and actually, conducting a session, because you don't want to perform as, as easily as it can look like you're performing. You're not performing. So there was something that our supervisor had taught us was, you want to be able to react to your clients appropriately. So again, that's why there's a difference between just performing and actually trying to address the goals and objectives that you had planned out for your clients. So for example, the class we were working with, again, children with ASD, they had a lot of trouble with transitions from their activities. So after their music therapy time with us, they would transition to another playtime or whatever it may be, table time. But they just could not do transitions. They would start crying every time they had to leave a certain area, and even the aides are they're just always also having trouble. Me and my partner had come up, well, let's have a transition song for them to easily get through that transition period. And so we were just playing It's When the Saints Go Marching In, and we had changed the lyrics to When the Kids Go Marching In, just to follow along with what was happening. And so we were just playing oh, when the Saints, or when the kids go marching in, but we were just regularly strumming. Actually, here, I'm just gonna, I have my guitar here. It's better if I show it, just because it's hard to explain. This is what we just initially did. We just did, oh, when the kids go marching in, oh, when the kids go marching in, they will go to their station. Oh, when the kids go marching in. Yeah, so it's just regular strumming, which sounds fine, right? And initially my partner and I are oh yeah, cool, we got it. But then when we had done our session, the goal of that transition song was to help them go to their next activity, but it really didn't do anything. They were still crying and everything like that. And so our supervisor had told us what you're playing matches with what you want their response to be. So she had said oh, so if you want them to be calmer, not be crying when you're transitioning, you want to make sure that how you're playing matches that too. So she had said oh, so then change your strumming style, or change your finger pattern. And so we had changed it to, oh, when the kids go marching in, oh, when the kids go marching in. So it was a lot quieter, and then you can hear boom chug boom chug. So that's supposed to mimic them oh, walking to their next station. And then we had done just that small change in strumming, and there was a world of difference. So it just really showed how much music can have an effect on anyone's reaction. So that was really when things kind of clicked for me, and that's when I started really applying that to my sessions, even during any intervention. If they were getting so rowdy during let's say an upbeat song, a movement song, to try to you don't want to stop the music, so you have to use the music to get the response you want out of them, basically.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. You kind of spoke earlier about how music therapy is an uncommon tool and that there's a lot of misconceptions about it, but how can it be implemented in everyone's lives?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. I think definitely if you're an individual who enjoys music, who finds some type of, emotion or feeling with music therapy could definitely be something to look into. Again, I don't know if music therapy is for everyone, just there are other therapies out there like art therapy, dance therapy. It really depends on your interests. So if you're a musical person and you love listening to music, and you need some type of therapy for whatever you may be going through, whatever diagnosis or condition you have, definitely music therapy is something to look into. Trying to implement it in people's lives first by starting with realizing that music therapy is a thing, and it's a valid thing. Again, there are still people out there that are that don't really see music therapy as a oh, is that really a thing, but I think that's really what the first step is, you know, realizing like, oh yes, this is a profession, this is this works, there's been studies proven, this is evidence-based. So it is something that can be used for the right people.
And we have one last question for you today. We were wondering, during this shelter and stay quarantine happening during COVID, how you have fostered your love for music and or music therapy.
Yeah, so definitely when COVID had hit in the middle of the semester, I was on my second semester of field work, and it was a definitely interesting transition from being, because my second semester I was placed with we were at a senior living center with elderly population with dementia. And so it was a very interesting transition from actually being there with the clients and playing for them and, you know, interacting with them, and transitioning to just Zoom. And we actually had just had to stop altogether. We didn't even get to say goodbye to our clients, just because they had closed their, you know, their site. So with that, we ended up doing mock music therapy sessions with us. And so with those mock music therapy sessions and kind of like still trying to help us plan and everything, it really made me like appreciate what we had, which a lot of people are going through at the moment with anything, really just appreciating what used to be. But even with that, like there's still a lot of ups now. There are a lot of ups and developments because of what's happening right now. Recently, we had a meeting with you know, our music therapy class, talking about how we're moving forward with conducting music therapy sessions for this next school year. And there's, you know, now our professor specifically said that this, as hard of a time it is right now, this is actually also a really great time because we have this new opportunity of telehealth, which is, you know, providing services through, you know, electronically via remote, you know, stuff like that. So while things aren't quite figured out yet, it's definitely something to look forward to. And I started realizing this, like, oh, like this isn't all bad, because if anything, now having this opportunity to do things through like internet via remote, you know, Zoom, whatever you want to call it, it can actually even be more accessible to people. You know, not everyone had access to music therapy, or not every place had music therapy prior to this whole thing. But now, since we're moving to telehealth / you know, online, yeah, there's hopefully will be more opportunities for people to get exposed and get the opportunity to receive music therapy if that's something they're looking into. So yeah, so while it is still developing, I'm very hopeful and excited to kind of like, yeah, work through this time and how we can continue giving, you know, these quality music therapy sessions, and, you know, just to continue improving on that.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for talking to us, Madelene, on this episode of LVP Conversations. We really enjoyed it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. It was fun talking to y'all and getting to share some of my experiences. Yeah, super thankful.